She never knew that a single moment of compassion would become the most important decision of her life. It was a cold night, a shivering boy, a lonely girl, and a door that opened from the heart. But the story that unfolded behind it was no less than a storm. The person she gave shelter to, was he just a traveler? Or a twist of fate that would change her entire world? After that night, nothing was the same. Not the girl, and not the boy. So, let's uncover the truth hidden behind that night and that one decision. A truth that will shake you to your core. To know the full story, you must watch this video until the very end. This is a story from the misty, rain-soaked coast of Oregon, where the forest meets the sea. Here, in a small, isolated cabin, lived a young woman named Clara. She was a painter who had escaped the noise of the city to heal a broken heart. Betrayal had taught her to build walls around herself, and her only companions were the whispering pines and the roaring ocean. She had forgotten how to trust. One night, a storm raged with a fury that seemed personal. Rain lashed against her windows like angry fists, and the wind howled like a grieving wolf. Clara was huddled by the fireplace, trying to lose herself in the flames, when a sudden, frantic knock echoed through her small cabin. It wasn't the gentle tap of a neighbor. It was the desperate sound of someone at the end of their rope. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. Who could be out here, in the middle of nowhere, in a storm like this? Her hand trembled as she approached the door and peered through the peephole. A young man stood on her porch, drenched and shivering, his thin jacket plastered to his body. He wasn't looking at the door, but up at the sky, as if pleading with it. There was no menace in his face, only a profound, soul-deep exhaustion. Clara's mind screamed at her to ignore it. Don't get involved. You know what happens when you trust people. But as she looked at his defeated posture, she saw a reflection of her own pain. She saw the same loneliness she felt every single day. Her compassion, a feeling she thought she had buried long ago, fought against her fear. With a deep breath, she unlocked the door. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper against the storm. The young man, whose name was Leo, flinched, startled. "I'm so sorry to bother you," he said, his teeth chattering. "My car broke down a mile back. My phone's dead. I just saw your light. Can I please just wait on your porch until the storm eases up? I won't be any trouble." Clara looked at him, truly looked at him. He was just a boy, probably her age. The storm was getting worse. Leaving him outside felt wrong, a cruelty she couldn't bring herself to commit. "You'll freeze out there," she said, stepping aside. "Come in, you can stay by the fire." Leo entered hesitantly, dripping onto her wooden floor, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "You have no idea what this means." Clara gave him a dry blanket and a mug of hot tea. Her movements stiff and cautious, she sat in a chair far from him, watching him as he huddled by the fire, trying to bring life back into his frozen hands. The silence was thick with unspoken questions. "Where were you headed in this weather?" she finally asked, needing to break the tension. Leo looked up, his eyes a startlingly clear blue. "To my grandmother's house, in the next town over. She's not well, and I promised I'd be there." He spoke with a quiet sincerity that caught her off guard. He told her he was a musician, trying to make a living playing in small cafes and bars, saving up to record his songs. He spoke not of fame or fortune, but of how music was the only way he knew how to make sense of the world. As the warmth of the fire spread through the room, it seemed to melt the ice around Clara's heart. She found herself telling him why she was here, in this lonely cabin. She spoke of the man she had loved, the dreams they had built, and how he had shattered them all, leaving her feeling worthless. It was a story she had never told anyone. Leo didn't offer empty platitudes or easy advice. He just listened, his gaze full of an empathy that felt like a warm embrace. When she finished, Her voice choked with tears. He said softly, "Being broken doesn't mean you're worthless. It just means you were strong enough to feel something real." His words hit her with the force of a wave. For the first time in years, she didn't feel judged. She felt seen. They talked for hours, two lonely souls finding a temporary harbor in each other. He played a soft melody on an old guitar she had in the corner. A guitar that had been silent for years. The music filled the cabin, weaving a spell of peace and understanding. In that small firelit room, surrounded by the raging storm, they found a quiet center. When the first light of dawn painted the sky, the storm had passed. The world outside was washed clean, glistening and new. Leo knew it was time to go. As he stood at the door, he turned to her. "Thank you, Clara. Not just for the shelter from the storm, but for the shelter you gave my spirit." He left, and the cabin was silent once more. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It was filled with the echo of his music, with the memory of their conversation. That one night changed everything. Clara started painting again, but her canvases were no longer filled with dark, brooding colors. They exploded with life, with the vibrant hues of sunrise and the deep blues of a peaceful sea. She had opened her door to a stranger, and in doing so, had opened the door to her own healing. A few weeks later, drawn by a new sense of courage, she went to a local festival in the nearby town. As she wandered through the crowd, she heard a familiar, beautiful melody from a small stage. It was Leo. He was singing a new song, a song at a stormy night, a warm fire, and a girl who showed him the way home. Their eyes met across the crowd. He smiled, a smile that held all the warmth of that night. And Clara smiled back, her heart full. That night, she hadn't just saved a stranger from the rain. She had saved herself from the storm inside. Friends, this story teaches us that sometimes the greatest acts of courage aren't grand gestures, but the quiet decision to open our hearts when it would be easier to keep them locked. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power of human connection. We'll see you in the next video.